You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
We are starting part 2 of our weekend house calls. This is where we answer all of our community's questions each and every weekend. About 6 to 7 to maybe even 8 questions each episode. And today is part 2, which means yesterday we answered about 6 or 7 of our community's questions. Do feel free to tune into that show. That's simply stephencabral.com/575. Now today, what I want to do is get right into our questions. They are all based on wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging based questions. They come in again from our community. People ask them at stephencabral.com/askcabral. And we're going to get into as many questions as we can today because I want to catch back up. So we're about 20 or 30 questions behind. I am looking to do my best to be able to keep pace and answer your questions to the best of my ability. So when applicable, I'm going to also refer back to previous podcasts where I may have given an in-depth answer to your particular question. As always, if you want to look up the answer ahead of time, simply go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in a keyword such as bursitis or organic acids test or candida or estrogen, whatever it might be, whatever your issue might be, feel free to type it in and see what previous podcasts were already done on your particular topic. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into our questions for the weekend. So today's first question is from Adalyn. She writes in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm so grateful for your podcast and have to admit I'm completely addicted. I love all the knowledge and especially the science behind it. I am a pitta body type and lectin sensitive. I have plateaued in my weight loss. I have bloating, acne around my nose and chin. I'm extremely fatigued, brain fog, and I think I deal with some poor circulation and inflammation as my limbs go numb easily and my knees ache a lot. I hike 3 to 5 days a week and do weight training 2 to 3 days a week. I've had some mercury fillings removed in the last year. I'm wondering if you have any ideas what might be going on and how I can heal my body. Thank you so much." Okay, so Adalyn, obviously I just have a little paragraph, right? About 6 or 7 sentences, which kind of sums up what's going on. So let's see what your actual symptoms are. So you're not able to lose weight. You have some bloating. You have some acne around your nose and chin. You're fatigued, you have some brain fog, and you're dealing with poor circulation and some inflammation as things go numb. Okay, well, let's look at all of those. So your weight loss issue is a kapha-based issue. Your bloating could also be a kapha-based issue. We're looking at fatigue and brain fog, more kapha-based issues. And poor circulation, kapha-based issue. Okay, so we seem to have this kapha-based issue going on. So you can say that you are a pitta, and I don't disagree with you. Your genotype very well could be a pitta, which means you have broader shoulders, you have fine, thinner hair, probably a lighter brown hair. You have maybe blue or green eyes, typically green eyes a lot of times with the pitta. You have more of like a chiseled jawbone, all of those things. Okay, so let's say that is your body type. Great. But right now you're exhibiting more of the kapha-based disorder. Now, you do have some of those pitta-based disorders as well, such as the acne around the chin and the nose, which could also be hormonal based though. And you have some inflammation. You're blaming the poor circulation and inflammation because your knees go or your limbs go numb. But that could also be vitamin deficiency. That could be a blood sugar dysregulation. So that could be a lot of different things. So I don't want to just say it's inflammation right now. So hopefully I'm already giving you a look into what's going on with your body. So right now, what I would do is I would run a adrenal hormone lab first. Why? Well, yeah, potentially some estrogen dominance because of the acne around the chin and nose. You're fatigued, you have brain fog, you're dealing with weight loss. So again, adrenal hormone test, first choice. My real first choice is the weight loss test because that's going to give you your adrenal, your estrogen, your progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, T3, T4, TSH, TPO. It's going to give you hemoglobin, A1C, and your vitamin D. Amazing lab. Can't recommend it enough. Absolutely worth the money. Plus, it comes with my review of that and a 30-minute coaching call with one of my coaches to take you through my recommendations. So can't recommend that enough. And then if you're able to, you could certainly do the organic acids test. That will look at your bloating. Do you have increased candida, yeast, fungal overgrowth? Do you have increased bacterial overgrowth? That will tell you, plus a whole lot of other things like your B vitamins. And if you're low in your B12, well, that could certainly cause the numbness in the limbs, acne, all sorts of different things. Highly recommend that. That's what I would do. So once you run that test, I would then complete the 21-day Dr. Cabral detox. And since we know that costs less than 3 weeks of food, I would simply complete that after you run your labs. So run the labs first, then run the 21-day detox while you are waiting for your results and coaching call. Okay, so hopefully that helps, Adalyn. Now, Cynthia's up next. Hi, Stephen. You are a true blessing. Thank you for all you do. My almost 15-year-old, 125 pounds, has had irritable bowel for 5 years, often worse in the mornings. He's had a food sensitivity test through our naturopath doctor and tested very high for dairy and mid-range for wheat. 7 years ago, he contracted E. coli while vacationing in Mexico and was put on a probiotic that only helped temporarily. Most mornings, he has cramping and diarrhea, usually after eating breakfast, but lately after eating most meals. He also has tiny raised bumps on his cheeks and upper arms. He's an ectomorph body type. His life is very affected by IB to the point where he is nervous to venture too far from home. I've listened to your Healthy Gut podcast and wondering if that's the route I should go with a teenager. Many thanks, Cynthia. So for sure, Cynthia, what I would do is I would run an organic acids test and a stool test if finances allow. The organic acid test will show the candida overgrowth, potentially Clostridium difficile, potentially bacterial overgrowth. It will show detoxification. Again, vitamins, B vitamins. It will it's an amazing test. There's 75 biomarkers. I know we talk about it a lot for gut-based issues, but really it's a metabolic test. It looks at everything going on in the body. It's an amazing test. I've run it 3 times on myself. I ran it many, many years ago, and then I've run it twice for various reasons to look at my overall B vitamins and my overall ketone levels, all sorts of different things like that. So I've run it, can't recommend it enough. The stool test as well, I've run that, just checking for H. pylori, which I've had in the past. Your son very well may have H. pylori as well. So besides E. coli, it's very easy to get H. pylori in Mexico and other countries as well, even here in the US. And it will test for parasites. So I can't recommend those 2 labs enough. I know that there's an expense to them, but that's what I would do. The organic acids test, the stool test, it will also come with a half-hour coaching call for each, and you'll get my recommendations. If you can only run one, I would run the organic acids test because we'll, a part of the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, we'll also be using the healthy belly, which will help with the H. pylori. So that's what I would absolutely recommend. And that will give you the answers. Remember, you can only go through this. It's been 5 years. So you have to test. Again, I know there's an expense to all these things, but it's absolutely worth it. So eventually we have to stop guessing and we have to test. And the nice thing is you get my review and one of my health coaches literally takes you through both of our recommendations. Because again, my health coaches are amazing. So Mary Ellen's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I've been struggling with cystic acne and have had no luck getting rid of it. I'm on DIM, D-I-M, an adrenal response through you guys, and it hasn't seemed to calm it down at all. Although my own research, I've looked into insulin levels being too high and maybe that being the cause of it. I've never had tests done, but I do have a lot of potatoes in my diet, frequent urination, like I literally urinate probably 20 plus times a day. Okay, well, that's a big one we're going to talk about in a moment. And I'm always hungry. I've read that insulin is frequently linked to what people just write off as hormonal acne. I am unfortunately still on hormonal birth control, and I'm going to stay on it until after my wedding because last time I tried to get off it, my skin went even crazier and it was breaking out all over my back. I suffer from sinus inflammation as well. Not sure what information will help. How would I figure out if this is my root issue and what natural ways can I go about this? To add to my last question, I can't remember, I wrote, I haven't had an actual period in 2 months now. I get the big massive headache right before I would get it and all the symptoms, just no actual menstruation. Okay. So yes, I mean, hands down, you can use the DIM, you can use the adrenal response. Totally agree that those are great products, but there's something much deeper going on. And again, just like my last question that came in from Cynthia. Mary Ellen, what I recommend is you have to test. I really recommend testing. The test I recommend for you is a little different than obviously Cynthia's because yours is hormonal based. If possible, I would run the weight maintenance test, or also called the weight loss test. It is the cortisol, it's the adrenal, it's the DHEA, the testosterone, the progesterone, all of your thyroid. It's a great test. My recommendation is to run that when you are having symptoms. So you say that you get the symptoms, but just no menstruation. Take it on a day when you get these symptoms, or simply take it the day after you get the symptoms. That's good enough for us. We'll be able to give you your estrogen to progesterone ratio, which right now, that's what I'm leaning towards, that there's just an influx of actual estrogen going on in your body. And that is without a doubt, causing these specific issues. And just keep in mind, nutritional supplements are literally, for the most part, food-based. They're not drugs. They're supposed to help the body. They're supposed to give the body a little extra push. When you're low on it, it brings you back up. And when you have too much of something, it helps to take it out. But my recommendation for you really is after you run this lab is a full 21-day detox. I want to remove this inflammation. I want to help better regulate those blood sugar levels. I want to teach you a healthier style of eating, making sure that you're not eating more than every 4 hours in a row. We need to get that 4 hours so that your blood sugar actually comes down, that you start to absorb, that your insulin is actually produced at a correct rate, that you don't become insulin desensitized. That's very, very important, that your body doesn't keep just pumping out insulin to try to get those glucose receptors on the cells to open up and uptake some glucose. So that's what I recommend. I would run the weight maintenance test, which will show you everything from your thyroid to your estrogen, progesterone, and your adrenal glands. So hopefully that helps. Okay, let's move on to our next question from Sam. Sam says, I suffer from alopecia and notice it triggered deep after taking antibiotics. Is alopecia reversible via diet? All right, Sam, I've actually answered this before. It's on show number 87 and show number 421. But if you just go to stevencabral.com/576 for today's show notes, I'll link everything up today for you. But I want to give you just a quick overview. I highly recommend listening to those shows in depth. I've worked with alopecia many times, and I've helped people reverse alopecia many times. So the two main things I see is this. One, yeast and fungal overgrowth that is internally from the gut and externally actually on the scalp or body itself. And number two, an actual reaction to massive amounts of stress. Now that stress can be life. It can be breakups in relationships. I see that quite often. It can be losing a job, something very, very emotional, very, very emotional. And I've actually seen it happen when someone has had a heavy metal overdose, such as mercury amalgams removed improperly, a vaccination, things like that. And I've seen this in adults. Like I've seen many, many cases of that. I've had colleagues with the same exact issue happen, believe it or not, as well. So yes, absolutely, you can reverse alopecia. There's no doubt about it. Can you do it through diet alone? Probably not. I mean, that's just the truth, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm the biggest proponent of food. It's always food first, meaning like you have to change your nutrition first. There's no doubt about that. But, in my opinion, I would run a hair tissue mineral analysis and I would run an organic acids test. If you can only pick two tests for the most part, those two are those are my tops. Hair tissue mineral analysis will show you your exacerbation of stress through electrolyte output, whether you're in what's called the alarm stage, the resistance stage, or the exhaustion stage of stress, how your body's keeping up. It will show copper toxicity if there's any of that. It will show you protein digestion. It will show you heavy metals. Do you have large amounts of mercury, aluminum? Well, if you do, those need to be gotten rid of, taken away. And we can do that obviously naturally. And the organic acids test, most people I work with alopecia have large amounts of yeast and fungal overgrowth. The organic acids test will show you that. What if you can't afford to do these things? Well, then you could run the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. And you could work with a health coach, or you could do some type of adrenal calming based protocol as well. So hopefully that helps you out, but definitely check out episode 87 and 421, or just run the hair tissue mineral analysis and organic acids test, and you'll get my recommendations review as well as a call with one of my health coaches. All right, Elizabeth is up next. This is a great question. I read this over before today's podcast, and I was looking forward to answering this. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I wondered your thoughts on Pycnogenol, aka pine bark extract. I was looking into it to potentially assist with melasma, eyesight, and tinnitus. I also read it can help with jet lag, although I was a little concerned to read that it may cause stomach issues. I presume it's relatively safe to use, just maybe not long-term. Thanks so much for your awesome podcasts. All right, let's get right into your question, Elizabeth. So the first one I want to do is just talk about melasma. I've answered this on a previous podcast as well. I've talked, in depth about melasma. If you go to today's show notes and you just type in stevencabral.com/576, what I'll do is I'll link up the previous shows on melasma, which were, I believe, episode 456 and potentially 526, but I know it was 456 for sure. So we'll go into that. Now, just keep in mind, I work with people with melasma all the time. Typically, again, in my practice, I see that it is induced by a large period of stress. Again, a mental, emotional, or a physical assault on the body in terms of a gut-based issue or heavy metal-based issue, whatever it might be. But I see it as a high cortisol output. I see it with the actual brown marking of the skin or darkening of the skin in certain areas. And what helps the most is looking at it from healing the body, from calming down the central nervous system, and then using detoxification, things like glutathione or just doing a detox in general, and then getting the body back to normal. I've given many talks on this before. So now let's just talk about Pycnogenol, or some people call it Pycnogenol, but it's Pycnogenol. And believe it or not, Pycnogenol is really just a made-up name. It's a product name for pine bark, just like you spoke about, pine bark extract. Now, you spoke about side effects. I just want to get the side effects out of the way. Typically, the side effects could be dizziness, gut problems, headaches, mouth ulcers, or in men and women as well, higher levels of sexual arousal. Now, the reason for that is increased blood flow. It actually works a lot like something like L-arginine or a vasodilator. But what is Pycnogenol? And I think you're going to find after I just give you some of the benefits of Pycnogenol, it almost sounds like a panacea. And that's what it's been marketed as for quite some time. To be honest, it is. It's a super food or a super antioxidant. That's the thing about it. It's the same really powerful. They're called, it's called a proanthocyanidin. And what it is, it's a compound found in things like grape seeds, like really powerful antioxidant. And so again, this is coming from pine bark. It's an extract. It can be used as pine oil. And what it does is it has antibacterial, antiviral, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, anti-allergic, anti-carcinogenic. So it's like, which is anti-cancer. So it has all these anti-effects because it is a antioxidant and it's a powerful anti-inflammatory. So it helps with all of these great things. And yes, it's been heralded as something that will help with blood pressure and osteoarthritis and ADD, ADHD, reproductive issues, erectile dysfunction, eye disease, stamina, anything blood sugar related. So it's pretty powerful, and I'm actually very impressed with it is. And it's long history. I mean, it's been used for about almost 500 years. It was originally used, I believe, on ships. And it was used as that because it has, not only can it be used for a little dose of vitamin C, but it actually potentiates vitamin C. So it helps with the uptake of it as well. So you can fight off scurvy, obviously, with it. So that would make it a very powerful antioxidant and vitamin C compound as well. I also like it because it helps with infections. Big fan of it. If someone gets a cold or they're having a weakened immune system, that's one of my favorite times to use Pycnogenol is a weakened immune system. Definitely one of my favorites. In terms of people use as a pre-workout or again, like something that helps with ED or erectile dysfunction. Again, just reducing inflammation. That's why I like to use it with workouts and the improvement in stamina. So what I would say is if you're someone dealing with blood sugar issues, meaning if you need to lower blood sugar. Now, a side effect could be dizziness because if you have low blood pressure or low blood sugar, you wouldn't want to use Pycnogenol just like you wouldn't want to use turmeric because both Pycnogenol and turmeric can actually lower blood sugar. And if you're susceptible to that, you could go into what's called hypoglycemia and get lightheaded and get dizzy. So highly recommend it for that. It actually has some sun benefits, some UV benefits as well, which that's not why I would use it, but it can help against sunburns. It can help with allergies. It can help with asthma. Why? Because it's an anti-inflammatory, right? So it can help with that. So why would I use it? I would use it for immunity. I would use it for allergies, yes, asthma. I would use it for circulation-based issues like blood pressure. I would definitely use it for glucose levels, for lowering glucose. How much should you use? Well, typical dosages that have been studied are around 200 milligrams per day. Personally, I would use about 100 milligrams in the morning, 100 milligrams at night, use it every 12 hours. That's how I would do it personally. But you can use it, again, it's been shown to be safe up to 450 milligrams per day. If you were a larger person, meaning you were over 200 pounds, bigger body type, then you want to use a little bit more. And in that case, if you're over 200 pounds or 225 pounds, which again, I mean, if you're 6'2" and you're a male and you weigh 225 pounds, that doesn't necessarily mean you're overweight. So I always want to make sure that we're not saying that someone who's over 200 pounds is overweight. You very well may not be. You might be in fantastic shape. And I work with a lot of athletes who are 240, 6'4", and I mean, they're impressive physiques. And just remember, you're going to use a little higher dosage. So in that case, you would use 100 milligrams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that would be a better dosage, more appropriate dosage for you. Hopefully that answers your question. I mean, just think of it like this. It's a superfood. It's a super antioxidant, and anytime an antioxidant would be needed, that's a great time to use it. Just remember, it's what I call a tier 3 product, which means you should be using your multi first, your activated multi or your daily all-in-one shake. You should be using a greens powder or something like the daily fruit and vegetable blend. You should be using a probiotic. And then there are other great products to use, like a B vitamin or daily thyroid support or an adrenal-based product or, omega-3. And then after that, then if you wanted to add more supplements, you could certainly do Pycnogenol. I don't know if I'd use it all the time. I might use it for 6 weeks or so, 12 weeks maximum, and then kind of cycle off. And that's what I would recommend. Could be a great winter supplement to boost immunity. Okay. Tina is up next. Let's see. Tina is going to be our last question because we are out of time. So Tina's writing in, "Hi, Steve. First, I want to say thank you for your passion in the world of natural healing. I recently discovered you and have been binge listening to all of your podcasts. My question is about my 16-year-old daughter. She's been having what I believe to be ovarian cyst pain monthly. I don't believe in giving my family Advil, but the past couple of months, she was in tears and broke down and gave it to her. Can you recommend something else that might help with the pain? And is there something we can do to keep her from having these bouncing hormones? ? Also want to mention that she was diagnosed with POTS 4 years ago. It's pretty mild and doesn't sideline her too much. I've long suspected it might be related to gut issues. Would love your thoughts. Thanks again, Tina." Okay, Tina, so on episode 457, I answered the question about POTS. I would absolutely recommend that. You're going to get to hear a little bit about my struggle many years ago. This was going back 15 years ago or so, 15 plus years ago when I had POTS. And so you'll learn about that and how you can fix that. That's an adrenal-based issue. That is a cortisol-based issue. That is a central nervous system-based issue. That is a burning out of electrolytes, namely sodium as well. Keep in mind that electrolytes are a root cause issue. People are like, well, what's the root cause issue? Sure. Yeah, adrenal-based, no doubt about it. Central nervous system-based, no doubt about it. But it affects your electrolytes. And when your electrolytes aren't balanced, you can't properly balance your actual central nervous system, which runs off of calcium and magnesium and sodium and potassium. So really, really important to check out that show, 457. And what I would recommend is a hair tissue mineral analysis, and highly recommend an adrenal hormone test for your daughter. That should be done when she's getting these terrible, terrible symptoms. That will show her what her estrogen to progesterone levels are. Can't recommend that enough. Then we can make specific recommendations for her. Now, what can you do in the meantime? Well, she's 16 years old, so she could certainly do a detox, even if it was just a 7-day. And what can we do temporarily to relieve some of this pain? Well, the omega-3, so she could do the daily omega-3 support. She could do 2 capsules at dinner or 1 cap at breakfast, 1 cap at dinner. She could be doing a smoothie in the morning to better help with antioxidants and inflammation. The omega-3 is, of course, for the inflammation. She could be using the Pro Omega, the liquid. She could do a half a tablespoon at dinner if she would choose to do that instead of the capsules. That's totally fine. Turmeric also mimics Advil. So if you use 3 to 4 grams of turmeric per day, yes, it's a lot, but that's, again, when people say, oh, well, take some turmeric, here's 100 milligrams. 100 milligrams of turmeric is not going to do anything. Literally anything. It's like a dusting. People say, oh, we have the best coenzyme Q10 product, the best CoQ10 product. It's going to increase this, this, and this. Sure, research shows that it will help with that. But when you offer someone 10 milligrams of it, it's going to do nothing. You have to really have 100 milligrams of it in the ubiquinol-based state, and that will do a lot for you. Again, I'm not just giving you that as an example. In your case, you'd want to use something more like the turmeric or curcuminoids, and that would be a much better use of your dollars and your supplement dollars. So what I will do is I will actually link up a curcuminoid or turmeric-based product in our show notes today. I will look up one that I would recommend that we use in our practice. We don't sell it on our website, but remember, we only sell a handful of products on our website. When you ask for the Cabral concept, I simply recommend you to other brands because the goal is not to say, oh, well, you need to buy our products. That's not it. I just say, hey, our products are third-party tested. We sell them less than anybody else. And we know that they work because we use them in our practice all the time. And they're obviously validated by functional medicine and by real research. But again, we only sell a handful. So when in doubt, just go to the website and go to all of these different show notes. And I'm going to link up to some other great brands like Thorne or Orthomolecular or Pure Encapsulations or Integrative Therapeutics or Barn Biologics or, there's so many great companies out there. And I would never say Equilibrium Nutrition, which is what I formulate for that brand, is the only one that you can use. I just back it up without a doubt. And I say that this is what works. I know it works. And I've said in the past, the only reason why I developed Equilibrium Nutrition is because there was a need for the marketplace. So if there's a product that I already believe in, then I don't make the product because why would I? I can just recommend it to someone else. It costs a small fortune to develop really good functional medicine products. So when in doubt, I'd rather just link up to other products that I recommend. But if I need it, I need it. That means I need it for me. I need it for family. I need it for friends. I need it for people that I care for my private practice, and I need it for our community. And that's why I developed these products. So hopefully that answers your question. As always, I really do enjoy answering your questions. I feel like in some way I'm getting to know more people. I'm getting to really connect with them on a deeper level and do my best because I just know that I'm not going to be able to work with every single person over Skype or in my office. And this is a great way for me to at least get you started. And that's the whole goal of these house calls. So once again, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you've had a great weekend. And please do check back tomorrow on our Motivation and Mindset Monday. They're some of my favorite shows doing these Monday shows. They get me pumped up. They get me ready for the weekend. That's what it's all about, is being able to get excited, motivated for life so that you take those first steps. So when you take those first steps, that's how we get results. That's how we achieve our goals. Thank you, everyone. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.